Okay, so we are recording and live streaming when you are ready, Mr.
Hey.
Chairman.
Commissioner Jalazowski, how close are you? Okay, very good. No, quite all right. I understand. See you in a few. Bye. He's in Shepherd, probably at the Maple Syrup Festival. He's probably eating pancakes. Isn't that this week? Does that start this
It
weekend?
has started. It has
right?
begun.
Yeah,
Yes.
I plan on going there tomorrow,
You should
so
bring us pancakes. That's okay.
It has begun.
I guess we. With that being said, it's now what, 11 o'clock? I guess we'll call this meeting of the Finance Administration Committee meeting to order.
Yes, sir.
Second item up is the approval of the agenda. No,
I do ask
started-
Mr. Chairman if we could
Yeah.
add this agreement with Consumers Energy for modifications of electric facilities for the Isabella County Sheriff's Office and Correctional Facility Project. Miss Heidi Hitz Kindle from Clark Construction is here for our first agenda item.
so we'll put it right
So it
here.
would kind of be nice to add it as number 2.
Yeah,
So that she doesn't have to wait through all that other stuff for us. I don't think we have any other guests for items today.
okay, so Consumer Energy's modification.
Yes, I'm sorry. I guess that would be item number 5.
Yeah, we'll move the rest down.
Yeah,
So I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the agreement with Consumers Energy placed as number 5, and then moving the other items on down accordingly.
Second, I'll second that. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So approved.
excellent. Thank you
Alright.
both for that.
All right. I have just FYI, that was Chairman Jalazowski on the phone and I didn't pick up. He's gonna.
He knows where you are.
I know he knows where I, and he knows where to find me.
That's right.
So, there he goes. Yeah, I think I better should take this. Maybe. Commissioner. Yes, sir. Okay. No, we'll just start rolling through this and we'll see where you are when you get here. We'll make it work. Yes, he is. I understand. You're a busy man.
The
Very good, sir.
festival, yes.
He has requested that we keep action items. We're going to keep the action items delayed so that he can vote on them.
Okay.
I don't know how that was going to affect Heidi, because obviously we don't want to keep her
Heidi
waiting.
doesn't need to be here for the vote. She
Oh,
just needs to be here, to talk through it.
Yeah.
We could just have discussion and then
So we
when
could do the
Commissioner
discussion.
Jalzinski arrives.
And then come back to it.
Yep, revisit those vote if you would like to.
Very good. Let's do that then. So we have approval of the agenda. Let's move on to call to the public. You said we have. You guys are good. I guess we have. There's no call from the
There
public
is
then.
none at
Then
this
we'll
time,
move on
Mr. Chairman.
to item 4. Consider approving the prime contract change order number 5 with Clark Construction in the net deduction amount of $380,119 and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same. Discussion.
Yeah, so Heidi's gonna help me with this, hopefully, but we know with the project, the size of the sheriff's office and correctional facility project, there's gonna be changes going forward.
Hmm.
A lot of times when those change orders come forward to us, yes, they're really increasing the price, but one of the main drivers to decrease the price in this change order is taking out the what's called the Davis-Bacon, or better known as maybe prevailing wage requirement on the project.
Ooh.
Because it's federally funded, we went forward believing that Davis-Bacon was required. It was not until December 6th, the day we were in this room closing on the loan, some communication between the USDA and conversation led to our understanding it was not required by the USDA. And so that led to a lot of deducts on labor rates. So that's really, I would say, Heidi, the driver in what drove the cost down for this change order. But I don't know if you want to talk about any of the other major items that are included in this change order.
Sure, we did have some additional value engineering items as well that we, during the process of bidding, some contractors brought up some ideas for us. Also, when we were doing post-bid interview, it was with the contractors once we received their bids. Just walking through documents and stuff like that, they brought up some suggestions of some cost savings. So those were some things there that are also included in that PCC 05 deduct. There was a couple ads in there for some changes on the site through documentation that came up through RFIs or those kind of things. So, but yes, like Nicole said, we do, it's a deduct for the project to start out the project going. And those funds in our budget report, I don't know if there's a budget was shared, Nicole, but right now when we had savings from the overall buyout of the project, we made a line item in our budget report for called buyout. And those savings from bid time went into there, and these costs here also are going into that as well for buyout for any future changes that come up during construction. We all know construction is not perfect and there's always problems and stuff like that. So that'll help with anything that comes up or changes that need to be made. So hopefully that answers any questions.
And it was new to me, but it's different and separate from the contingency fund.
Correct.
This
Right.
buyout concept,
Yeah.
and that it sits over here, and Clark is able to draw from that prior to going into the contingency.
Right.
So it's almost like a second contingency.
Well, yeah.
Correct.
Like a little slush fund, not really, but.
We
it's-
don't like to say
Yeah, no, we
that,
don't.
sir.
But it is like a
Second
second
contingency.
contingency fund. But I like this idea of having it available to Clark Construction so they keep moving.
Mhm.
You don't have to come back to us for more money, which doesn't make.
Or
that doesn't
the-
make
It
sense.
saves, it saves a lot of paperwork, and there's a line item in there. I just need to make sure it's okay with you to use those funds or to move that money back into that line item in the budget before we proceed with writing or change orders to the contractors.
And you're approving that through
Through this.
approving this, yes,
Very good.
exactly, yes.
Okay. And again, please pass along our appreciation to the contractors who offered up these cost reductions. I gotta tell you, that means a lot. It's pretty
It helps.
impressive. Yeah.
It does help. Yes, it does.
Thank you to all of them. Yeah, we'll put that on record. So thank you.
Okay.
So I guess we'll, have any other discussion?
We'll wait until Commissioner Johnson's
All
here.
right, so we'll hold that, put that in hold for now. I guess we'll move on to number 5. To consider the agreement with Consumers Energy for modifications of electric facilities for the Isabella County Sheriff's Office and Correctional Facility Project.
Yeah, so
Discussion.
this was, this agreement with Consumers is for the temporary electric service at the site so that Clark Construction and all the subcontractors can do the job that the jobs that they need to do here. It's just over 29,000 for the invoice from Consumers, and this is a cost that Clark will pay. Clark bears the cost of this in the project budget. But the agreement with Consumers can't be between Clark. It has to be with the property owner. And so odd, but I do think we included an email in there from Heidi, at least if we didn't include it in the packet, we do have that with us that states, Clark Construction is paying for this. It doesn't increase or otherwise impact the cost of the project.
Correct.
Okay.
I have sent this agreement to legal, as the staff report says, for review. Tim Perrone, County Council, did get back with me yesterday with a couple of suggested changes to Consumers, albeit he noted that Consumers is not likely to entertain such changes. So I'll work through negotiating of that and have an update for you on Tuesday, certainly, but council wasn't so overly concerned about the requested changes that he wasn't recommending we move forward. He certainly recommended.
He'd like this, these are recommended, not
Sure, but he was doubtful Consumers would even entertain them.
highly unlikely. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Heidi, do you need to add anything to this conversation?
No, I think Nicole nailed it.
Okay,
thanks Heidi.
You're welcome.
I guess we're good with Heidi?
We are good with Heidi. I know you might notice in that packet, the last page is what they call a go ready checklist. Lots of questions that Nicole knows not, and no offense, commissioners probably know not.
Even less.
This is for our electrician to fill out. So Commissioner or Chairman, hope I didn't want you to think that you would be signing off on those items.
Mhm.
Heidi has coordinated it with Master Electric to be
Yes.
able to complete that document.
So that's master
And
elect.
you should have that in your inbox, Nicole, just FYI for you.
Excellent. I don't check email during meetings, Heidi, so I'll see it.
Just an FYI, you do have that, so, all
Awesome.
right.
Moving forward.
I guess, we're good with any further discussion?
No.
Again, thank you, Heidi.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thanks,
too.
Heidi. You as
See you.
well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right, with item 5. We'll move on to item number 6, consider acknowledgement of the notice of lease extension between Isabella County and Michigan State Police. Agree to the replacement of carpet and ceiling tiles in the leased premises in October of 2023 and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
Yes.
Now, with this one, I did read through that. That was pretty interesting. This agreement that we have with Michigan State Police. We're moving on to the second 5-year extension.
Yes.
While within the original agreement, there's discussion about replacing the carpet and the ceiling tiles, which has not been done ever. So we're on the hook for that. is
We
my
are.
understanding.
Yes, we are.
Legally, we're on the hook for that.
Yes, yes, we are. That's my understanding, and I have reached out to legal to verify that. The original contract was a 20-year term. Essentially, these contracts or leases were set up. We'll build the building, we'll make the improvements. Your 20-year payments are gonna help us pay off that lease. And then, once we're done to that point, your rent is based on ongoing repair and maintenance costs, basically, right? So the first 20 years of that lease, made the payment. We're just coming to a close of the first 5-year extension. They just noticed us an option, like you just said, to take care of this, or that they're going to exercise their option on the second 5-year extension. I believe we were supposed to replace carpet a few times throughout the terms of the original 20-year lease.
Yes.
That did not happen. Ceiling tiles are also mentioned. So legal tells us that doesn't get us off of the hook just because we didn't do it during the time frame that the lease said we would. We're still required to do that. So in negotiating those projects with the state police post or the folks here, I said those are major expenses for the county, so we would appreciate the ability to build those capital projects into the budget. So that's why the letter states that those things will be done October of 2023, because they're allowing us the budget cycle to build those in. If we got them done sooner, I think that would probably be agreeable to all parties too. But I just want to point out why it says it'll be done in
And they've
October.
allowed us to wait till then.
Yes, and it's tough, right? Because then you're already presupposing, you're already pre-approving what's going to be built into the budget. That's a little tough on this end, so maybe we can work to get those projects done sooner. But the gist of it is, it's an expense that we must.
And then the rental rate, if you will, that amount will be determined based on the February 1st through January 31st.
The current period. we're in.
Period we're in. Is that right?
Yep,
How much they
actual
pay?
costs. We kind of been put on notice as per the terms of the contract, rent going forward. And that last 5-year option extension will be based on actual costs for certain things, certain maintenance items throughout.
Electrical.
Yep,
electrics.
Yep, all the operating and maintenance type costs.
Okay.
Yes.
In it. Looking forward, after this 5-year extension, where do we go?
We get to negotiate a new lease with them if
They choose to
they
stay.
choose to stay, and we choose to allow them to continue to stay. Mhm. Yes. Roof maintenance, interior maintenance, grounds maintenance, snow removal, HVAC, parking lot, and some administrative costs too for overseeing the lease. So we will be diligent to record those costs.
What we in retail used to call seat camp, common area maintenance. Basically, you take care of all the good stuff except for what's inside the building.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I understand that. Okay,
Hmm.
very good.
Yeah, so we failed them on this lease and now it's time to,
So they're making
Well,
it.
We got our money's worth out of that carpet. Really.
I would
gonna
say
say,
so, yeah.
yeah.
Yes, I would say so. You know, and I've always heard, you know, carpet tiles are more economical way to go because if you have a stain or a fade, you can replace that, but it appears after 25 years, they can't match the color on the carpet tiles, so it didn't really do us
Yeah,
any
but
good in
25
that.
years is
in
pretty
that,
good.
They can't match the
Okay.
color at all unless you save some out of that tie lot that they're put down
Apparently.
with, unless you have a few extra when they put it down.
Yeah,
Because it's
so-
kind of like wallpaper, it has to be produced out of the same dye lot.
Well, problem I found is I've done that in restaurants. The stuff that we had set aside, when you go to put it in, it isn't faded.
It's not
It has
faded,
mold.
yeah.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
almost have
I
to
mean, it
leave
looks
out.
like, it doesn't look like it belongs,
Sure.
so
Yeah,
it's kind of that's a catch 22 there. It's tough. It's
Right.
nice to have one that matches, but it really doesn't match anymore, so.
right, yeah,
Indeed,
that's true.
indeed.
But it's great
Very
that we'll be able to continue this arrangement with the Mount Pleasant,
Yes.
Michigan State Police. It's pretty good.
Yes.
Chairman.
I apologize.
No,
I was working on the KC auction items and I had it on my schedule. I just forgot about it.
We're doing fine and you haven't missed a whole lot, so
Mm,
we're
Okay.
doing fine.
Where are we at in the agenda?
We are looking down at, would be your item number 6.
Okay,
And you haven't voted on anything, so you may wish to,
Why don't we return back to item number 4 on your agenda?
and then to
Okay.
catch you up,
Yep.
Chairman, the item next to you was added to the agenda as the new item 5.
okay,
So we've reviewed and discussed item number 4, the new item number 5, new item number 6. So
okay.
those are the 3 that we've considered so far.
Would you like to make the motion for number 4? I'm familiar with the change order.
We're pretty good with that, yeah. Move to consider approving the prime contract change order number 5 with Clark Construction in the net deduction amount of $380,119 and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
I will second that. All in favor for that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye,
Aye,
Aye. Pose same sign. It moves to the work session.
very good.
And you did complete the discussion on number 5 at this point, or, okay?
Mhm.
I'll make the motion to consider acknowledgement of the notice of lease extension between Isabella County and Michigan State Police. Agree to the
But
replacement
we
of,
have not voted. With the discussion was done on the addition,
oh, on the addition.
but we haven't voted yet, but you haven't voted.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is another change order then? On the,
No, this, let me back up, sir. The item that was added was an agreement with Consumers Energy for temporary service at the Remus Road site. Clark Construction and the contractors need that temporary service to provide the services to build the project.
okay,
Clark Construction is going to pay the cost, which is just over $29,000. It is part of the project budget, but Clark pays that cost, but
Okay.
Consumers needs the agreement with the property owner. So my apologies for having to add that, but it'll be a holdup if we don't.
Okay.
Move it forward.
so I will make the motion to take the agreement with Consumers Energy for modification of electric facilities for the Isabella County Sheriff's Office and Correctional Facility to the work session.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It moves forward. So we haven't had a discussion on the former 5 yet. Oh, we have.
We
We
just
finished, yeah.
finished the
Okay.
discussion.
All right. Let me just look at it, see if I had any questions about mine. So as I read that, this was part of the original lease, but they never exercised that. And so in the renewal, they do want the ceiling tiles and carpet replaced and
Yes.
at the cost that was stated.
And we are on the hook to do that per legal counsel, even though we didn't do it during the time frame that the lease said we should do it. We still are on the hook for installing those improvements. And they allowed us to consider those capital projects in the budget process. That's why they're giving us until October of this year, because of that's the new fiscal.
That was nice of them.
Very,
Yeah.
So also the other thing we're looking at, there's a reduction in the annual amount because the facility's been paid for. And so now we're going down to a lower rental amount for the annual.
yep, we have in the existing 5-year extension, we've also gone down. And then they kind of put us on notice with this letter that the next 5-year option rental payments would be based on certain maintenance items starting, it was February 1st of this year to January 31st of 2024. That'll set the annual rental rate for each year going forward.
Okay. Would you like to make that motion?
I certainly can. I move we consider acknowledgement of the notice of lease extension between Isabella County and Michigan State Police. Agree to the replacement of carpet and ceiling tiles in the leased premises in October of 2023 and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
I will support that motion. It's been moved and supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And that moves forward to the work session. Now moving to number 6, which is new for everybody, correct?
Correct.
Yes, we are up to speed. Yes.
So, motion is, or the item is consider approving Isabella County Budget Amendment number 2023-08 to recognize the remaining American Rescue Plan Act 8 lost revenue funds for public safety payroll and authorize the board chair to sign the same. As I looked at that, it looked like it was a double addition of.
Pardon me for not having a packet there for you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I had the same question. We got increases, 2 increases. Isn't it a debit and a credit? So it would be a,
Usually, when you do a budget amendment, there's a debit, there's a credit, but we have the same, the amount we're moving as a double.
We do, because in order to bring the ARPA dollars into the budget, we never budgeted to receive them. So part of the budget amendment is increasing your revenues by 8.6 million. The other part of that budget amendment, help me if I'm wrong, Melissa, is increasing fund balance. Because in a budget, we've already passed a balanced budget. If we bring in an additional 8.6 million of revenue, there's 8.6 million of other revenue that we budgeted for that's not going to have to be applied to expenses. So at the end of the year,
Okay.
that will show up in our fund balance.
Okay. That
We
makes
don't
sense.
want it just to be in unassigned fund balance.
Mm.
What this is assigned for, I believe it says again, I just passed mine away, but it's for working capital. We're coming into that, the part of the year where cash flow is traditionally tough for the county. We've got the $4.8 million tower project, thankfully, that the sheriff has secured through public service. And we thought that the state was going to be fiduciary on that. They're not. We are fiduciary, so we are fronting those costs. Reimbursement is coming in for those, but it's kind of compounding the cash flow project, right? You see the invoices come in on the sheriff's office and correctional facility project, and you know we've cash flow is going to be tight on getting those out. So the thought is, quite honestly, with the federal whispers of a clawback for unobligated dollars, the cash flow needs of the county, we felt it was very time. We built it into our
We don't wanna lose
forecast.
it, do we?
No, obviously, we built it into our forecast to recognize it this year. And that's the process. You do that. You bring it into your budget and you say what we're gonna spend. We have to spend it on general government services. We're choosing to apply it to public safety payroll.
Mhm.
We can go back to March of 2020 to apply these ARPA lost revenue dollars, they're called, to public safety payroll. We recognize it as revenue through this budget amendment. We report that use, and then that's how it becomes fund balance. We're not going to let it just sit in unassigned fund balance. Maybe we're not ready today to commit it to the sheriff's office and correctional facility. Maybe we're not ready today to commit it to MERS. But I know we're ready today to say we need that for working capital for these projects. I have the ability to assign dollars like that out of fund balance. The board has the ability to commit dollars. So my assignment of that fund balance could be undone by the board, could be undone by another administrator controller. So I didn't want to presuppose that this board would want to take action to commit. It is assigned fund balance. It's not sitting in unassigned. I think maybe once we decide more solidly what the board could do with these dollars, maybe then that's when you can vote to commit it. But just rest assured, they're not sitting there and unassigned. We have a need for the dollars for sure.
Good.
Any questions about that budget amendment or what it's doing? Remember, it's still leaving that almost $3 million of direct ARPA that we still have. And we have to spend that on things like the HVAC project, right? Things like the treasurer's foreclosure prevention program for folks who were disadvantaged through COVID.
But that's assigned currently, right? So that,
That is already,
yeah,
yes.
so that they can't claw that back.
Well, no, because we
Uh,
have not reported it, I don't believe, as obligated on our ARPA reporting. Generally, we wait until it's spent and then we go, okay, it's
Mhm.
obligated. So I think we could go in there and say, okay, we're spending a couple million on HV, get it obligated. The mandate was obligated by December 31st of 2024. I'd like to think that there wouldn't be any claw back efforts until January 1st of 2025, but we know that they
Yeah.
are talking about it. But I do think before anything like that would happen with the ARPA direct dollars that we have left, we've had an ARPA work group in place
Yeah.
that we've always taken ideas to say,
Mhm.
okay, is this something we would recommend to the board that we do? So that's been our process here, small ARPA work group. Commissioner Jelezinski, I know you were on that work group. Was Commissioner Horton on there? Chairman, were you on that? I'm
I
trying
was
to-
not,
Trying to think who was with you. I
uh,
thought there was another commissioner, maybe.
I think just
Was
Commissioner
just-
Johnson.
Yeah, I don't know.
Commissioner Horton.
the County board commissioner on it.
No,
Mm.
I think you were the
We
only
had
one.
other department heads, elected officials.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, the great group, very thoughtful. They looked at, project requests and said basically up or down and recommended it to the board. So I think we should revisit that
Yeah, I
ARPA
was
work
gonna
group
say.
process, get the gang back
Mhm.
together and
Get that ball rolling so that
Yeah,
we can designate that money so they can't claw it back. Okay.
Any other questions or comments on that particular item?
None from me.
I will move then that we take the consideration of Isabella County Budget Amendment 2023-08 to recognize the remaining American Rescue Plan Act lost revenue funds for public safety payroll and authorize the board chair to sign the same. Support. It's been moved and supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. Okay, it moves to the work session. Number 7, consider approving the proposed payroll clerk position at a non-union employee wage scale pay grade 8. And approving the proposed human resources specialist at a non-union employee wage scale pay grade 10. And eliminate the existing payroll and benefits administration position in the administration office effective immediately. And authorize the board chair to sign the budget amendment number 2023-09. So having Emma leave, you're saying basically your staff was doing more than it should have been. Is impossible to do in a 37.5 hour period. Did you have a chance to talk to the treasurer's office to see if there's any interplay with the treasurer's office?
I did not, in that regard. We basically met internally, with administration staff to look at payroll HR duties. As we all know, Emma was a crackerjack. She was good at her job. She knew her stuff and consistently couldn't get the job done in 37.5 hours a week. Was consistently working overtime beyond 40 hours a week, honestly. So to me, to knee jerk to just refill her same position with a new person is setting someone up for failure in the whole process. So we did sit down, I'm included, and talked about what other places do. We called around and found out a lot of places have payroll and HR duties. Bless you. And so we started to talk about what are some of the, what are the payroll duties, what are the HR duties, and putting those in different buckets. In addition to those duties Emma was doing, other staff in the office had taken on HR or payroll duties over time. So the accountants spend their time reconciling the Blue Cross Blue Shield bill, reconciling our voluntary life bill, reconciling our short-term and long-term disability bill, all those charges. And those are pretty in-depth. It's not hard work. It's not, analytical, but it takes time, because with those, especially with those medical rates for disability, there's different rates based on age, right? Different rates based on amounts of coverage. And so it's not a quick, straightforward reconciliation. So accountants spent time on that regularly. Jessica has always done the job postings, applications, advertisements for openings, that type of thing, clearly an HR function. So we really did just sit down and put pen to pencil to figure out what's in the payroll bucket, what's in the HR bucket. Obviously, it's going the wrong direction as far as personnel or as far as savings. But this is what we felt, excuse me, that our experience and our need over the last few years have showed what we needed. We're definitely open to something different going forward. I just was on the phone yesterday with our local rep from ADP. It's basically like outsourcing your payroll, right? They still require someone here for that function, but their comment to me was, we've never come in, and I apologize, this happened, just yesterday, so I haven't even had time to update staff. I don't want you to think I'm doing anything rash, but certainly looking to see what's out there, right? They need an online presence, but they can take a lot off our plate. And they said that they've never gone into a place and implemented their services where it wasn't a savings to them, right? I recognize I'm asking for two separate full-time positions, when right now there's only one full-time position. And even though they're lower grades, it's still an increase to the budget. Even at this point in the year, it's about a $25,000 expense to approve these two positions versus one going forward, even though we're going from a grade 11 to a grade 8 and a grade 10. I recognize that's going the wrong way. Hopefully meeting with staff and ADP soon to see, even if you guys did approve these positions, I'm still meeting with ADP to think, okay, this is our structure now. What could you take off the plate from an HR perspective?
Mhm.
And I do think it's
Yeah,
going to be cheaper, because
It will be. Yeah.
they do it for its economy of scale, right?
Yeah.
They do the same thing for others. So they're good at it. They're knowledgeable about it. They know the laws, they know the rules. They're experts. They have a deep bench of specialists to draw from. It's almost like 44 North for our health benefits, right? It's getting into that third-party arrangement. I am not opposed to that. I know we want a personal relationship with our employees when they have issues that require that, but we don't need to spend our time when you need to increase your contribution to MERS. That shouldn't take a half an hour conversation, or there's more efficient ways to streamline some of those payroll and HR duties. So looking at that.
It's good.
It's worth
That's
looking
where I
at.
was gonna go. In my background, contracted out payroll and human resources. And in my history, I've never found it to be a negative. Found it to be effective. They're experts. They have, when HR issues come around, they know their business, they know how to handle it. The one-offs, they've dealt with them all. Payroll issues, they've dealt with them all. And I found that by taking that off my plate as an operator, boy, that freed me up for a lot of other opportunities that I could work on and not have to put to the side because I had to deal with an HR issue or a payroll issue.
And it is those one-offs, right? That now we have to stop. It's urgent.
Yep.
We stop because it's urgent and important. And now we research.
Mm. What do we
Or
do?
it's immediately stop research. How do we do this one thing that, we deal with one time a year? We're not experts.
We're opening ourselves up for liability in those issues, kind of situations. Even if we hire an HR person, unless they've had a tremendous amount of experience, and if they have a tremendous amount of experience, they're going to want to be compensated for that experience and that knowledge. So invariably, we more often than not find ourselves with an HR person that doesn't have quite the experience as a contracted out HR organization. So you're going to find they're going to be kind of put in a position where something comes up that could cause us liability, that it's not handled correctly. So, from my standpoint, I like the concept of contracting it out. So I appreciate you looking into that, because I think we should.
It was certainly
Consider it.
came to me timely. Sometimes it's serendipitous, but
Certainly you contract it out, there are those fringe responsibilities that don't get contracted out that somebody has to pick up, but having last been employed by Clinton County, I'm aware of how the administration works there, and I know they have a HR person that was fully engaged. And then they had an accounting function attached to administration that did the payroll and a lot of other functions. So I'm not opposed to that. I think on an annual basis, we're talking about 35,000.
I think it was, 25,000 for current year. So, and we're halfway through the year. So
50.
yeah, you have to
Well,
extrapolate.
I'm
It'd be
thinking
at least,
more.
50,000 additional annual for moving to those two positions. Now, even if you do approve the structure, eliminating the grade 10 administrator for payroll and benefits and creating a grade 8 payroll clerk and a grade 10 HR specialist, even if you do that,
Excuse me.
that would give me the ability to hire those people at a start. Anything above that, I've got to come back to the board for. I'm telling you right now, in addition to that, I am now looking at ADP. ADP specifically, just because they happened to call me yesterday. But other companies, if that would work, but they've been doing it for like 75 years.
So you're saying if we were to go ahead and move forward with this, that would still allow you time to explore these other options to contract out. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Or at least we have the ball rolling.
Yes, this gives me the ability to, if you prove it Tuesday, I could post these two positions and see what we get too. And if you want to make it part of the motion that you approve that, but you want the administrator to return
Contingent.
with,
upon-
with the return to you before hiring those, or whatever you want to, contingent on further information from contracted payroll services. Maybe
Gentlemen's thoughts?
payroll.
I think it's a good idea to get those jobs posted and see what you end up with
If any.
for applicants, if any.
Yeah,
And then that'll help with the
Yeah.
decision on whether to
Well,
go
that might help us. decide
with
which one.
a firm
Oh,
that'll
yeah.
handle some or all of the duties, and I don't really have a horse in that race, whether we subcontract, the payroll duties or not. I will say, I know administration is kind of been, what should I say, stressed the last
that's really.
year and a half or so.
I say spread.
Spread thin, yep, with we haven't filled the deputy administrator controller position, and we haven't utilized our contracted financial services company as much as we previously were. We really limited what we were using them for, which is saving us
Yeah.
considerable amount of money, which is good. But we are spread a little thin.
And I personally,
This-
Thank you for recognizing.
in my short time here, I sincerely understand and recognize your situation. Having been in that type of position, okay, it is a very challenging time, and personally, looking at this from an organizational standpoint, having a deputy administrator who can take some of these functions that she's currently dealing with that are more everyday run-of-the-mill things that need to get taken care of. If those were taken off her plate, she could focus more on all these different projects and these
Big
different
picture
things.
things.
It's not like we're just sitting back, chilling,
Mm.
maintaining the status quo around here. We are full steam ahead in a lot of different directions. And we're gonna need our county administrator engaged 100% in all of those projects. So me personally, I think it's the time to look into that deputy administrator position and look into their job descriptions and really start to really look at that and see where we could make some inroads. I realize there's a cost involved, but I gotta tell you, right from where I stand now, that would be a great investment. Until we get to, until we get to that point where we don't have anything, no.
Oh, that day. I look
Yeah,
forward
we're
to
just
that
sitting
day.
around enjoying our successes. I think we should look into it. But anyway, I just want to bring that up as something I think we should look into moving forward. Well,
I was gonna the only thing I was gonna add is, I know we're looking at moving back to a deputy county administrator. But there has been some rumbling that I picked up on about the remote work. And I think if we go in that direction, especially, I think we need to bring people back in the office. I've heard that people have come up, they haven't been able to reach the people, and I don't want to
Sure.
identify any elected official's office or any department, but I think we went in that direction for
It
the
was
pandemic.
appropriate.
But I think we need to start thinking about bringing people back in just for consistency, and I think it's just for image.
the optics of it, exactly. I agree 100%.
I'm
People want to see the people that they're paying, their tax dollars, they want to see them working. I agree.
So would you like to make the motion on
Sure.
7?
Consider taking to the board approving the proposed payroll clerk position at a non-union employee wage scale pay grade 8 and approving the proposed human resources specialist at a non-union employee wage scale pay grade 10 and eliminating the existing payroll and benefits administrative position in the administration office effective immediately and authorize the board chair to sign budget amendment number 2023-09.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Right, we'll move that to the work session. Number 8, consider accepting and placing on file the fiscal year 2023 second quarter financial report as presented.
I'm not sure, Melissa, are you able to share that on your screen so I can see it here? If not, they can,
I have it
they
at
can
home.
share paper.
I will share this paper here.
Okay, I'll share.
Okay, so 6 months ending, so think in your head 50%, right? 50% mark, 50% is the number we're looking for. And then don't panic when you see the top line of 5.65% taxes received. Remember, our operating tax levy doesn't go out until the July 1 tax bill, so.
That creates cash flow problems. When I see that, I'm thinking, ooh, cash flow problem. Ooh.
Yes, it
I don't like
does.
that.
So if you're that concerned about it, maybe that extra dollars sit in fund balance and get
Mhm.
assigned to working capital, right? I mean,
Right.
maybe that stays there. Maybe that gets elevated for now going forward, right? We've proven year after year, the 2 million working capital we have in there is not enough for cash flow at
Okay.
most times of the year. So one of the things we did like a couple years ago, I think, was bust that out. Down below is kind of shaded to show your total revenues, not accounting for property taxes and what's going on there. So if you set property taxes aside, we're at 46.78% of revenues collected, and that makes us feel a lot more comfortable. This time of year. Licenses and permits might appear a little low. That has a lot to do with the wind turbine, the escrow accounts where we have the money that they pay for. So we don't really know how much work is going to get done. So we might budget up here just to account for it all. There's not been a lot of sight and sound investigation, third party testing
Not a lot of
in
action
this
there.
current year. Yes. So when you see that revenue increase, you'll also see corresponding expenditure increase. So not too concerned about that. Federal and state is lagging. Federal and state revenues at 37%. Part of that has a lot to do with there's a lot of ARPA revenue that we built into the budget that we haven't recognized yet. I think that's what's driving that. Charges for services, pretty much right on track. We took quite a dip in COVID, right? When some things were closed down or lagging, but right at 48.6%. Fines and forfeitures, right on the mark, 54%. Interest and rents, quite high. What would be driving interest and rents up? Do you see that, Melissa? Did we put opioid dollars in? That's not where the opioid dollars went, is it? The revenue?
No, that's our interest.
Oh my gosh, interest is just doing so, I'm like, interest and rents, interest. This is, yeah, so interest is doing so well, we're that much
Oh.
beyond budgeted already at this point,
You-
yes.
You under budgeted, basically.
Oh, we
Expected- I understand,
remember what
yeah,
interest rates
right,
were.
given
yes,
the
yes.
current economic condition.
This tip is going 0.001, 4%.
Exponential, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So good job forecasting that idea very well.
Remember, you gotta have money to invest.
Yeah, well, that's the other issue, you know.
That's our-
Yeah.
Yeah, so all that, those extra ARPA dollars, they are able to invest, even though it's not been recognized necessarily as revenue. So that's a big chunk of money he usually does not have to send out for.
Well, it should be in the ARPA.
No, it's all coded to general. It's all 101.
Should be a separate line item.
We were allowed to put it in interest bearing accounts. The
But
ARPA
it's okay,
dollars.
but it's okay
Right,
that
an
it's in
interest
there.
bearing account, but still identified. that It's ARPA.
Not ARPA interest is a separate. Not ARPA interest of the bank accounts, the bank, but
Mhm.
yes.
Right.
It's not a separate fund, it's in 101.
But should, I guess the question should.
Right, I think
for
that's his question.
accounting Purposes, we're making money off them.
It says you.
Yeah.
Oh, so we are allowed.
Yeah, we just made sure that we divided it to keep it separate from 101, to keep it in a separate, different bank account, right? Cover a couple of them, or just a couple of them. Different ones.
Okay, thank you for investing it wisely.
Mm.
A little dollar helps here.
So you know how we do budget amendments throughout the year, and even though interest is performing well, until we get some of these other revenues up to, or more comfortable to reach the mark, we wouldn't want necessarily to do a budget amendment at this time to say, okay, great. Our interest rate is up, our interest revenue is up. Now let's build in more revenue. No, all of the rest of our revenue lines still have a ways to go yet. So maybe fourth quarter. Right?
You get a little
If
closer to the end game.
Yes, yes. Here's our opioid dollars sitting in other revenue. That's why that's up at 150%, and we've talked about that. Identifying, earmarking that towards specific uses. So we do still need to do that going forward. That's where that's
Is there a
sitting. right now.
deadline on those funds as to dedicate those or?
Not that I'm
No?
aware of, no.
Okay,
And there's no policing, or reporting that I'm aware of, but certainly we want to be diligent
sure.
in the.
And follow the
uses.
guidelines, yeah.
Yeah, delinquent tax revolving, you see, we budgeted 200,000 this year as a transfer in, if you will, from delinquent tax revolving. And that amount is at 0 right now. Again, that's something towards the end of the year. If that needs to happen, we'll make that transfer, but only if it's necessary. Transfer in from commissary is at 50%. CPL is a little under. That transfer in from CPL is to cover a portion of wages in the clerk's office. And so it's not always exact to budget. So that's why it's a little under 50%. The transfer in from other funds is register of deeds, and that happens one time a year, and it's always later in the year. So that's just unknown at this point. And then those indirect costs are, remember what we charge the Parks and Rec Fund, the Commission on Aging, inspections, 911. the MRF, those funds, and now Public Defender's Office. That's, the cost to their cost of covering our time, Michelle's time, treasurer's time, facilities time. So it's a lot of revenue to the general fund, as you can see. That's when we talk about Great Lakes Bay, Michigan Works, potentially bringing them under the fold. That's where you see that revenue would increase a couple $100,000 a year. So total revenue is just over 20%, very scary. But when you put property taxes aside, it's a lot closer to 50%. As you look through expenditures, you should be very, very pleased to see, most departments, well under or within their 50%. Admin always trends a little high because the property and liability insurance comes out of administration department. And we kind of pay that for, like, our first payment to them is for a 50% payment for the year kind of thing. So it's always, a big expense in the front of the year. Information management had the big phone system
That's what I
in the
thought.
current year, so I believe that's what's driving up their percentage.
And central services, that would be our maintenance.
Central services is actually our postage. Right, and it's postage for everybody. So right now, that's not something that we've tackled as far as cost allocation, but certainly something we can, to divvy that out. But right now, it's kind of odd, but postage all goes for all of our general fund departments goes to that line item.
Well,
Some of the outside funds do use postage, like the treasurer's office when they send out delinquent tax notices. But they will do a large, journal entry from delinquent tax fund to cover that type of thing. So it's not like there's a postage machine, anybody that needs to send something out, use it. Under Public Works, county drain at large, is almost at 100% because that's one payment, one time a year, and it's now.
oh, it's a
been paid.
one and done.
One and done, yeah, but that'll of course drive up your percentage, right?
Mhm.
Health and welfare, that substance abuse line, that will get to 100%. Remember, they receive half of the PA2 funds that we receive from the state, and so we wait until we get them, and then we send substance abuse their half. So that does always lag a little bit. Medical examiners low just because they I think that bill, I think we've paid like maybe the February bill, so it's just a timing issue there.
So let me back up that substance abuse. You say we send them their half. That's the court.
Nope, it's
Uh,
the convention and facilities tax that we
Was it-
receive.
Mid-State Health Network.
Right.
Yep. So half of those revenue, we receive them and Mid-State knows that we're gonna get them, and Mid-State usually sends us a letter and says, we know you got this much revenue and please send, it's 50% of it to Mid-State. So that's per the,
So the 50% that we keep is for the court in their programs or what?
nope, it's
Yeah,
right,
go ahead.
it's just right here in the
General
general
fund.
fund. Yep.
Okay.
So everything else looking good there. Veterans Affairs is doing fine. They're just over 50% because of the County Veteran Service Fund grant that they have. They always pay for they do the bus wraps and the Lamar advertising. So that's a big expense for them up front, but
It's a one and done
close.
too.
Exactly.
For the year.
One and done. Contingency, remember we pulled out of the budget this year. We never seem to use it. We always had 50,000 in there and we never seem to use it. If we ever come to you and need a contingency, that's your fund balance, and we come with a budget amendment and ask to use fund balance. So this year we just took contingency right out.
Sure.
Other financing uses, those are our transfers out. You can see MIDC is another, thank you for coining the phrase one and done. So we do that one time a year at the beginning. The rest of them are quarterly, and then the jail construction fund is as those invoices come in on the project, we pay those out of the jail construction fund. And so as expenses come, we just feed that jail fund with the transfer in. We don't just give it a pot of money. Last page is some of our larger funds, Parks and Rec, from the Court, Commission on Aging, childcare, 911 inspections and recycling. Revenues are doing really good in Parks and Rec. Usually you don't see Parks and Rec revenues to that extent at this time of year, but their online reservation system is going gung-ho, working very well, and they've had some
Really?
gangbuster days. Yeah, yes,
That's awesome.
it is.
People utilizing the technology.
And I don't know, Commissioner Embry, if you were here when they switched to the new system, was that last fall?
I'm not familiar with that at all.
They
Year
switched-
ago, yeah. I
Was it a
think
year
maybe
ago? They
even a-
switched to a
Yeah.
new online system, it's the same system that the state uses for the state parks, and it works very well.
Oh, apparently, because people must
Mm.
falling in love with it.
Yeah, the new one was just last fall. That's right. Yeah, the original one, not so great, but they
Mhm.
hung in there.
Awesome, good for them.
Yes. Friend of the court, revenues always seem to lag a little bit. General fund is on the hook to cover those friend of the court expenses if they are not covered within the fund. The general fund is where friend of the court gets any additional revenues that don't come from the state. Same with childcare fund. Expenses and revenues are down both in there. Both expenses and revenues are down. I feel like that's part of what the conversation we've been having is lack of placements in childcare funds. So I think that's what's driving that. Sorry, bumping back up. Commission on Aging, 75% of their revenue, things are going well. They've got their Derby, Kentucky Derby dinner, volunteer
Yeah.
appreciation out there this afternoon at 3. Forget if you don't have a festival going on. you might not show up.
In some of these where they have a millage of support, those millages tax comes in quicker than the counties.
You got it. So Parks and Rec and Commission on Aging are winter levies, so they received their revenue for the current year already. From taxes.
So that's where it comes.
Central Dispatch looks scary revenue wise. They receive their revenue not from taxes, but from a surcharge on everybody's phone bill. It's at $3. Yes. So anybody that gets a phone bill in Isabella County pays that into, and it always lags. I forget how many hundreds of places we get surcharge from. You wouldn't think, you'd think there'd be a handful, but there are a lot. We get a lot of checks in, and it always lags. I think we must get surcharge in, and it applies to the last quarter because of the way it's billed. Inspections right on track. Recycling, as we know, commodity prices have come back down, so recycling revenues are not performing where they have been. That's one of our issues, right, with running that MRF, is that market volatility of commodities is pretty tough. So hopefully someday we can share in that risk. Expenses down below, everybody seems to be well on track. Obviously, Parks and Rec has some major expenses coming up as their season gets underway. Everybody else is pretty much in line. Central Dispatch is a little bump over, I think, because of some of those big capital projects they've had going on out there. So really doing well. Everybody's very diligent
On the
here.
whole. See that.
Is there any questions? You want my copy, Commissioner?
Please.
Thank you for allowing me to hang on to it to get through that. though.
So, we don't need a motion on this, do we? Oh, we do take this to the, so I will move that, we take the consideration of the fiscal year 2023 second quarter financial report to the work session.
Sport.
Moved and supported, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, it moves forward. This one's gonna be interesting, 10-year forecast.
Yes, Melissa, are you able to share the 10-year forecast?
Sorry, I've not looked into the. Let me get into there quick and Sorry.
Oh, that's fine, that's fine.
Is it
Um,
something we're gonna have a hard copy for the work session?
you
or-
would, yes, we can. I mean, we usually don't bring this discussion forward to the work session. We certainly, well, no, we do, don't we? Because we talk about it at work session. Do we bring up the forecast? Yeah, every time we do the quarterly, we bring it up.
And I think that's
Yeah.
important, because as we go out in the community, especially when we're looking at this millage, which the community is aware of now. We can see
Yes.
the impacts of.
Let me go, I've got some on my desk. We're almost there. Let me go grab some hard copies for you.
Steve?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I got some information for you guys.
It's all right.
Yeah, we'll talk
Oh,
about-
from the conference.
Yeah, we'll talk about it afterwards. I got some
Great.
feedback from the good folks I met at the conference. It was really good. Yeah. Really good. Especially when it comes to the Murph.
And I didn't know that Commissioner Marino was gonna be down there till the night before.
He and I met up for breakfast and
Good.
we tag teamed, took on some different.
Was that that wasn't the legislative,
Mhm.
was it?
Yeah,
legislative?
Yeah. I went last year. It's really,
It was-
they had some good breakout sessions.
Very great. The breakout sessions were great. It was meeting the people who were putting it on,
Mhm.
from MAC, meeting legislators, meeting the director of the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Got a chance to talk with her
Nice.
about our consideration for a juvenile facility. And she gave me some insights and
Oh, great.
she sounded very positive about creating a juvenile facility here in Isabella County.
I've got some. I've been digging into some of that too.
That'd be kind
That's something to share.
and some best practices from other counties around the state who are either have just finished completing building out facilities or are in the process of. So I've got names of counties and people to talk to about best
Nice.
practices and where we could resources that we could talk to about what they've done and what we could do. So,
It seems like we'd have a advantage just because of our geographical location.
that's where the director, when I started talking about Mount Pleasant area, the central Michigan area, she eyes kind of lit up like, oh, okay, this is interesting because obviously we talked at length about sending kids all over the country.
Yeah.
They're sending some of these counties down south, they're sending them as far west as Arizona.
Oh.
Can you imagine? I mean, just the thought of sending a child to Arizona,
Yeah.
it was mind boggling to me. This wasn't just a one-off. This is on a regular basis where there's just not housing for
You'd
these
have to have
children.
the-
a pretty troubled child to go to that.
The
late
transport
distance.
costs would have to be ridiculous.
And then you talk to the folks in the UP
Yeah.
that are driving all the way down to Muskegon or
Yeah.
where they're having, I mean, that's, oh my goodness, and to be that far away from your family and your support system. I decided, again, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a significant push from governor and from the legislature to start moving forward with looking after our
Well,
juveniles.
they've got that task force that the lieutenant
Yeah.
governor is heading up.
It's
Yeah.
heading up. Mhm.
Yeah.
My apologies, I did not have them on my desk, so I had to. Oh, at least we're all looking at the same thing at least. And we haven't made any changes since I should have probably said that. Maybe you wouldn't even have wanted to see it, but we haven't made any changes since certainly the goal setting session a couple weeks ago. And really the only thing that changed at that point was we talked about changing the delinquent tax revolving fund revenue from 400,000 a year to 200,000. Obviously, we've heard Treasurer Pickens say time and time again that the fund can't sustain it, and we saw they were short. At the day that it came to buy the delinquents, they were
delinquents,
short. I mean, by the time Kathleen did the journal entry Monday, or whenever it was, yes, we had received more taxes in and could cover, but yeah,
It's
when it
cut.
comes down to it, that day,
Don't
you
wanna cut
couldn't,
things
right?
that tight.
No, that's not appropriate.
Obviously too tight, so we still do consider that and look at that as a resource for general fund, but
Well, but you gotta look at it. Really,
yeah.
The 200, and if you're $130,000 short this year and didn't make it through, and I still have costs of my employees for the rest of the year, because we take that out of it as well. That's about 10,000 a month. Okay, now, so
Yeah,
how many months left? You know, it's not even gonna sustain the 200,000 in the next couple of years. Until you get it to a point, and we're raising the delinquent tax revolving goes up every 200,000 years. I'm curious to see.
the purchases, is that what you're saying? The
I'm
purchases.
curious to see what, your definition of your surplus, how you calculated the surplus. Because that's what kind of the court case says that, that if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it. Well, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see where you guys, because.
I'd like to see us work together on that.
Yeah.
Well,
honestly.
I would too, but
That's where I'm headed. Why can't we-
Say,
Yeah.
we're gonna take 800,000, which we know is not anywhere close to it because we didn't take it. And if we would have taken the 800,000, we'd have been 900 and some thousand. 130 some $1,000 last year, said don't take any monies. You didn't take it yet. But now we're gonna sustain a 200,000 thing. Yeah, we earn about 200,000 kinda, but that's, the volatility.
Everything else being the same.
Everything else being the same.
Right.
Volatility there of what you purchase, it was 400,000. Okay, from last year, but it was increments of average of 200,000 a year for the last 2 years.
Can I interject real quick? I've had people that are watching this or have gone back to watch it. And
You can't see me.
I'm hoping that,
Aw,
I would like to, if
said
it's
you-
okay with
Gotcha.
the chair, if we can invite Treasurer Perkins to the table. I think that should, I'd like
No,
to
that's
come up and
fine.
sit with us and talk to the.
Well, I'm kind of done now, but
Oh,
I
okay.
will.
In the future? Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
I'd like to have you
I
up here.
said, and.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come to one of your work sessions and explain my side of the DTR.
Yes.
Portion for you, so.
did you already get on the schedule to do that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I know what we're working,
She
we're
said-
going, good,
Yeah,
good. No, it's important. It's
Yeah.
I wanna
important.
make sure I have all.
You're saying you'll come with a recommendation on what kind of funding?
Well,
It's
I
at a
did
minimum.
every year, you pay no attention to it, so.
Well, as
you know,
said in the past, right? But moving forward.
Okay, yeah,
Right.
okay. But yeah, I. will
We have
come
no
and-
problem working together.
I
going
will come and
forward.
explain the process to you so that you'll have a better understanding of what, of the obstacle, what goes on there and what effects and volatility of what can happen.
And the potential's coming, right? Why it's different right now and what
Well,
might
yeah,
be coming.
and
Come on, you see what I mean? That's why I'm saying, come on down.
if you were aware,
Thank you, sir.
at the Supreme Court yesterday, something I've said way back, if you guys were here, Jerry, or not. Hope it was, way back when we first started this thing.
Yeah.
The court cases that have come up. Okay, and they've multiplied since my first argument to you guys. They met with the Supreme Court yesterday. And the ruling probably won't come out until, I think they said the last day of the session, which will be June 29th. But it's not looking good. Like I said, it wasn't looking good way back when. About, we're gonna have to come up with some bucks. Okay, and
Is that if people appeal for those dollars?
well,
Or we don't know yet?
right now, we have people appealing for dollars that our law doesn't even allow for prior years. Okay, our law was changed from the Raffelli deal to say, hey, you can appeal to get your surplus. That's one side of it. The other side of it is the fair market value side.
That was yesterday.
Well, that's part of yesterday. They discussed it. But they didn't rule on it, the justices just listened. But the big portion of it is you've got every attorney that's out there. Plus, there's a couple that are filed and have been granted class action, which means that one attorney or somebody's gonna get the bunch and they're gonna get everyone. So there's not gonna be any surplus sales proceeds anymore. And plus, depending on the statutes of limitations, it may go back 6 years. So, and where are we gonna come up with that money? If they go to fair market value, I mean, like, one of the justices says, That's a bomb.
Yeah.
That's a bomb. And that no county in their right minds is gonna get in to the delinquent tax
Hmm.
purchase of it because of that. If they don't have some kind of leeway to come out of this,
At least to break even.
well, at least to break even, yeah, in the law, they look at to be of equity so that nobody it gets enhanced enrichment or nobody gets, defaulted or whatever. That, the best equity for this, best balance for this is no harm to anybody. So,
So you're saying there's a two-pronged problem here. One, fair market value, if they choose to decide to go that route.
That's
and they-
devastating.
And the other prong is how far back are they gonna allow you to go?
yep,
If they choose to go
Yep.
that way. So it's
yep. And then when
a
I
two-pronged
talk,
whammy.
we talk about the future, DTRs and all those stuff, that's part of it.
So help me, so with DTR, you still get penalty and interest on delinquent taxes.
Yep.
So the delinquent tax fund should continue as is
Well,
with
as long as we're gonna,
penalties and interest, even with Raphael, even
if we're
with
gonna
fair-
buy, yep,
because the foreclosure process is over here. It's separate from the delinquent tax
Mhm.
process. And that's where we're gonna be in trouble in your PA 123, your foreclosure. If there's
well, we're gonna be in
appeals.
trouble because they brought the counties in on if you're gonna have to pay back fair market value on these, or if you're gonna have sales proceeds. Yeah, we have some money, but we don't have, for all that. So, it's a hedge, but I'm telling you, it didn't sound good. I mean, I'm hoping that we can dodge the fair market value portion of it.
Minimize.
But the surplus sales, we're not gonna be able to dodge. I mean, even in our personal properties, even the IRS, the banks, when all their foreclosures come about, they confiscate, they sell, they give the excess back to the original owner. So I'm hoping that's the model of least resistance. I mean, I'd love to say the other way. People just walk away from their properties,
Hmm.
don't do anything for 3 years. The rest of the taxpayers foot the bill for it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're gonna get,
Fair market value.
we're gonna
for
be
the-
their real estate agent
owner.
and
There's no cost to them whatsoever.
no cost to them whatsoever, other than they lose their property, but
They walked away already,
Get
so.
fair
that's-
market value for it, then.
well, and that's,
Yeah.
that's based
Well, what's
on,
the goal?
Right,
To-
right.
To get people more money for their houses or to keep people in their houses?
well, and I think they're
Well-
confusing it with the eminent domain portion of it, where it says when a government comes in and says, we need this piece of property.
Pay fair market
This,
value.
fair market
or
value.
times
Yeah.
something.
So the comparisons are being, the government's taking this, the government's taking that.
That's not-
Why-
that's
why
not-
should
it-
That's
why should
apples and
it-
oranges.
Because
Well,
they're only
I-
taking this because you didn't pay your tax.
Yeah,
Right.
you-
That's a-
Right.
that's
You
a
asked
huge
us to
difference.
take it.
That's why.
And that was part of the arguments yesterday was, look, they've had the opportunity to sell it. They've had the opportunity to come to the treasurers and ask for more time. They've had the opportunity to go out and get another loan to pay for it. But I mean, in the case that they talked about, Hennepin, this lady lived in a condo and she moved to a nursing home and ended up even telling them, I want nothing to do with the property, you can have it. Okay, but this was one of those little old ladies that lost her property that, you don't hear about the ones that,
They're gonna pick the ones they want.
Right.
that,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, and, and so in the Oakland County one, it was ridiculous for them to foreclose on somebody for $7.80.
Yeah, I read
You
about
know.
that one, yeah.
So I guess my question is, what other steps that we can take in anticipation of this ruling to offset some of this expense that we're going to potentially incur? Is there things that we can do?
Well,
Cross your toes and fingers.
well,
I mean, are there? I mean,
Being
what,
aware.
it's, the sales point process is part of the, if you look at the design of the state, it is set up in the delinquent tax revolving fund. Okay, so even though it's separate, and there are separate laws on the monies and things, but I mean, I'm just saying, when you go to make decisions on building buildings and that kind of stuff and things, I don't know, I hedge a little bit because I see the direction that this is going.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just for Michigan. This was at the Supreme Court of the United States.
Mhm.
And they brought in the California, the Virginias, the Minnesota was the case that this one come from. So it's not just, they're gonna say, hey, in this region, you gotta do that, or in this state, you gotta do that.
Country.
It's gonna be countrywide. It's, on the thing. And so, it's not just gonna affect us, it's gonna affect everybody. But, we need to hedge a little bit, I would think.
Yeah,
You need to know what's coming.
we know it's coming to keep that in the back of our minds and.
Well, and that's why I brought it up years ago, and granted, it's been 5 or 6 years, but 6 or 7 years, 6 years, I think it is, that
It's coming down the pike.
it's coming, but I mean, and the process is slow, with the courts. But because it's went up the ladder, it's went up from the circuit, to the Court of Appeals, to the Michigan Supreme Court, and now the 6th district in the circuit or the US. Now it's happening in the Supreme Court because it is such a affecting position. That's not only going to affect people here in Isabella County, it's going to affect everybody. Yeah.
It's not a localized issue.
Right.
We'll appreciate the conversation.
Thank you, Steve.
So. So.
I think the only other thing that had changed in the forecast was, I think we built in the new wind turbine revenues based on the new multiplier settlement multiplier schedule. So there was that was a bit of good news in there, but still it, as we all know from the goal setting session, this is where it's panned out. So once we get our legs about us, obviously admin staff is scrambling to cover payroll and HR duties now. But obviously our hope get audited numbers in there now for 22, the budget numbers for 23.
So this build in any of the new cost increases we have with the probate court or the prosecutor's office with attorney fees, and
That wouldn't be in here yet.
so it's a surprise.
That will be built into when we bring the requested budget for 24. We are building those anticipated increases on the requested side. So we don't have to fight to add them in later.
Right, and better, no, I'd put to do that, yeah.
Mm.
Aaron.
No, I didn't, didn't attend the township meeting, but I had heard that the townships were not real receptive to looking at a millage.
It's accurate.
The
Yeah.
partner.
I would say the partnership was, they're thinking, we don't want any part of this and we're good enough where we
They
are right
did
now.
express, several individuals express gratitude that we were there talking about
Hmm.
it. So they were thankful for that, that we
Yeah,
were
okay.
being upfront about what we planned to do and that we came and talked to them about it.
And we
For
wanted their
that, they were
input.
grateful.
Yeah.
Yep.
They really appreciate the fact that we wanted their input.
So we're probably having to review and look back at maybe other options or I don't know where we're going with that, because we're still coming real close to November.
Mhm. And there was some conversation about moving it to the presidential election, 2024, just to avoid having to go through the townships and have them incur additional expenses. That was also brought up.
So we probably needing to schedule another village
Village group.
committee meeting.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Kind of review all of what we talked about.
Yep.
Mhm.
There's
Go
one
from
more
there.
thing to put on your plate.
It's all right. That needs to move.
And I think thanks to Chairman Hope. Nicole, I think we explained our position. We gave him the history. We gave him described the situation, explained we are looking at solutions. They did ask, well, are you just going to keep asking for money or are you trying to make adjustments? I said, we've also mentioned that we've left no stone unturned. We're trying to see where we can make adjustments, where we can keep this from becoming a huge, huge request. But at this point, we kind of are where we are. We're looking at $4 million a year and as of what, 2027. After that, it gets pretty interesting. So I think they appreciate it. I think they appreciate the fact that we've done our due diligence. We're just not saying, okay, we're not knee jerk reacting. We've looked at all of our opportunities and we've decided this is more than likely where we need to go if we want to keep ourselves out of the red. So I think they appreciate that. And I think also too, I think with Registrar of Deeds, Ms. Jackson, I mean, she made it very clear to everybody there that this situation was a situation that none of the folks that have been on this board or currently on the board created. She wanted to make sure everybody understood there was not this Board of Commissioners that created this situation. And I think that in and of itself caused everyone there to realize, hey, we're trying to do the right thing. And we want to be transparent about where we are. We're not going to try to hide anything. We're going to be right up front with you, tell you where we're at. And these are our options. So I think they appreciated that. Now they still were not really excited about getting on board with us. Okay. They kind of said, oh, you guys do what you got to do.
Yes, don't, we'll figure ours out. That's not an opportunity for
Well,
us.
at least they're aware now, so like when I make my rounds to my 3 townships,
Yep.
you know, I can keep them abreast and you've got what, 5 townships?
I've got them all calling me. Yes, I do.
So, okay, I don't think we need to take action on this report. But I think we could share that with the commissioners.
Here's the invoice list. I wanted to make sure you have them in front of you.
Okay. Number 10, invoice list discussion. We've got April the 14th and April the 21st. Only 4 of them that exceeded the 5,000 amount.
Yeah, this was a pretty 137,000.
Michigan Tax Tribunal refund on parcel at 5,400. So those are still coming in.
That's going the wrong way.
Summer interest from 2022 tax distribution to Chippewa Hills. How's the tax distribution and the summer interest? How's that different? The Chippewa Hills received $9,500 for summer interest of the 2022 tax distribution. That's
That their portion of the delinquent interest.
Yeah, off of the summer. Chippewa Hills, there's in the summer, so they get that percentage.
okay.
That's effective in extra holiday. So
Okay.
that's the percentage on their delinquent balance.
And I didn't see anything on those 4. Anybody else have questions on?
I didn't
that list?
see if I had questions about it also.
And then on the April 21st list, there's quite a few more payees, but again, you look through and a lot of drain
A lot of drain. Payments.
transactions and
Payments.
didn't really see anything on this one. Questions?
See if I have some
Comments?
somewhere I did it.
I usually do a quick scan. I look at who comes close to the 5,000 that never made the list.
Ah, nice. Who's trying to avoid the top of the list? Yeah.
Get on the radar. I like that. They're just outside the bullseye. It's right?
Sometimes you see the same vendor, and it's like 4,000, 4,000, 4,000, 4,000. I think, what's going on here?
Okay, so as a multi-unit operator, I would have restaurant managers that would ask their suppliers to do exactly that so that it wouldn't flag for me. I had a certain amount that they somehow the word got out and that's it. They avoided having to discuss it. And I thought that's pretty interesting.
But the big thing is, I didn't see any possible malfeasance in any of the
No.
listings.
Perfect,
Right.
perfect. And
Yeah,
everybody's
I didn't
taking that much time to
work that hard.
to be nefarious. Yeah.
We are seeing a few more child placements showing up on the list.
I know they played catch up. I think one of the last invoice lists seems like it had some aged placement invoices on
Yeah.
there that we were paying, but it does feel like we're getting caught up now.
And lots of drains, so.
Anything like that?
They say something?
I think they had somewhere to be.
I'm glad they take the interest in the proceedings.
Yeah.
Great sign.
No, that was it for me.
Well, if there are no other questions or comments on it, we'll just move to discussion. But we usually present this at the.
I'll make sure that it's on the full board. I'll
Okay.
make sure we put it on the full board.
Great.
Or for,
So do we need a motion on this?
Okay.
Okay. Announcements.
Maple Syrup Festival.
Hey. I think this is gonna be a banner year for the Shepherd Knights of
think so.
Columbus. We
All
have
right.
so much stuff in that hall. We don't even have room to display it all. So
Wonderful.
I can't wait to get down there tomorrow. Looking forward to it.
a lot of good stuff too.
Okay.
The only other announcement, and I don't know how this would work into the county administrator's schedule, because she doesn't have any help yet. and I know she's stressed. But at some point, I would like to engage prosecuting attorney's office, the courts, and the indigent defense department. As I was looking at making the adjustments to the contract attorney's wage, hourly wages, and I know we've made adjustments to the staff wages. I'm thinking, came to my realization that, okay, 80%, 75% being handled in-house, 25% out of house. Out of house is a better way to put it. But what it tells me is that those attorneys don't necessarily are impacted by a lot of overtime because they can adjust and modify. But on the courts and especially the prosecuting attorney's office, they have other responsibilities. They have a set number of people. And those attorneys are considered exempt from overtime, you know? And so I don't know how that compares and if that's would cause any friction within, because as a former employee of county, I know these things get around, they get talked about. But and I think Commissioner Sweeney talked about, it's not apples to apples, so I mean, it's apples to pears or something. But we need to have a discussion, I think, to determine, are we treating everybody fairly?
Yeah.
So if we have stress in the prosecutor's office, because we have a lot of attorneys putting in overtime or weekend duty or whatever, that it's not occurring in the indigent defense department, how do we resolve that? Do we resolve it by wages? Or we resolve it by additional personnel? I know it's going the wrong direction when you look at the 10-year plan, but I think we need to have an understanding of that and
Yeah.
engage everybody in the conversation. To let them know that we're trying to be
Okay,
fair.
we'll seek to set something up.
So in that vein, I did attend a session at in Lansing where we talked about that. There is consideration for a regional authority kind of situation where in order to help with staffing for both the prosecuting attorney and for the public defenders, there'd be a basically you'd have 6, 7, 8 counties that got together, and there would be a oversight organization that would allow for attorneys to be assigned based on need and caseload. And that would avoid the potential for poaching, which I know we had a conversation about that, and all the commissioners I talked to were all like, oh boy, this is a challenge for us. This county ups the ante, and then we've got to up the ante plus, and then up the ante, and it kind of works its way around the area, and everybody ends up in the same boat except for one county where everybody goes to. So that is under consideration. So
I think I mentioned, looking at the increase for the contractual hourly amount, that rounding it up.
mhm.
I was really uncomfortable with that. but understand that we did contact all the adjoining counties and everybody had agreed to it. But yeah, and you hear it from the sheriff's office, you hear it from other departments. But I don't think we're gonna get away from a shortage of skilled personnel. Regardless which department anytime soon.
Right.
And if we're, I don't know, I don't think we can kind of constantly compete. It's a non-win,
It's a no-win
non-win
situation.
situation.
Yeah, and the thing is, if we all agree that the labor shortage is going to be an ongoing problem over time, why can't we all come together in a regional mindset and say, okay, this is a region, these are going to be our set rates. Okay, so that way we'll, you know,
I'm sure there's a state
Yeah,
or federal
stop
law
the
that would stop
PA
that.
And the PD and the courts.
well, that's.
Why
well,
stop there?
We're just, we gotta, yeah, we talk about that at commissioners level. Yeah, we could go into a lot of different areas. Yeah, law enforcement, correct. Create like a regional understanding or regional intergovernmental
Building inspector.
understanding where we just said, these are our set limits. We're looking out for each other. If you want to come to this area, this is going to be what it is. I don't know.
I'm sure there's some labor law that would get us in the hot water if we start.
Possible.
A
Yeah.
lot of negotiating, but everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah.
We all need it.
And we can't continue to operate the way we have been. Because like you were just saying, there's, where does it end?
Anyhow, I appreciate putting that on your to-do list.
Yeah.
You got, I'm thinking with you three commissioners involved,
Yeah.
I'll set it up.
Other announcements? We'll do a call to the public,
There's no one online at this time, Mr. Chairman.
then we will adjourn.
Right.
And again, I give you my apology. This was my mistake.
No one has, no need.